I'm a text guy. Okay, I prefer my theology to be biblical theology rather than to think theological thoughts.
I mean, what are the options in your view when you say that?
All right. Well, my assumptions here, I wrote down a few notes, just again, sort of stream of thought things here. And how does the Bible define a human? Well, there's a unity between.
I mean, the word human doesn't really appear in Scripture,
right?
So.
It's Adam, okay, humankind. All right. So Adam can be either a personal name. It eventually, gets used as a personal name for, Adam, but it's also used neutrally most of the time. Male and female, he created them Adam. Well, obviously, we're not talking about Adam then. We're talking about both, and so on and so forth, the humankind. But how would a biblical writer, how does the biblical text think about that entity, a human being? And it requires physical properties, and it requires an immaterial nature as well. So collectively, that's a human being. Without the immaterial nature, you'd have a corpse, okay? And that's not really a human being because it's just a corpse. All right. If you have the disembodied dead, that's not really a human being because it requires embodiment, which interestingly enough, even in the afterlife scenes, everybody's embodied. So there's this sense that you need embodiment to talk about people or a person, in biblical thought, even at that level. So that's one thing. And I asked myself, about the whole imaging concept, because in Genesis 1:26.
Yeah. What do you mean by the image of God?
Right.
I mean, so some people listening in are probably coming in with Bill Craig's view that if it's something that has like language and creativity and a sense of burial of dead, then it's got to be in the image of God. But
right,
that's not how you're thinking about it. You mean something else by the image of God?
Not at all. I mean, I don't want to be harsh here because I like Bill Craig, but it's like if you take Bill Craig's view, you might as well have Peter Singer as a theologian, because a newborn infant is not communicating with anybody. It's not burying their dead.
Oh, but that's not fair to him. His view, which a lot of exegetes would disagree with, is that
if you define it as a quality, if you define the image of God as a quality, any quality, or especially a set, you don't have it at conception with the little zygote. You don't have it, with a few weeks later, and in fact, even after it's born, the newborn.
Yeah, but they would say, look, I'm not actually agreeing with them.
I know, but
what they would say is that it's not actually the quality; it's the intended quality. It's like God's.
Oh, great! Now we have intended humans. So life isn't sacred; it's just intended to be sacred. Well, again, here's where Peter Singer comes in. Give me the age. When do we cross the line? And this is the inherent weakness with any qualitative view of the image of God. I don't know why you're arguing life is sacred in the womb. And again, if it's different qualities, hey, I can show you, studies where chickens are smarter than, a 2-year-old toddler. So even intelligence, I mean, how do we define intelligence? Show me the line. Because if they're only potentials, then we have life potentially sacred, and that is very ethically tenuous. I think it's disastrous, to be honest with you.
I mean,
it doesn't work.
What I find interesting about the points you're making, Mike. So first of all, your dislike of a substantive view or a structuralist view of the image of God is not unique to you among exegetes. I think you have the common view among exegetes, I found out. But you're also making, I would say, a philosophical critique of it, which is a little different than what some exegetes are doing. They're saying from Scripture itself, it's hard to come to that view of a substantialist point of view.
I think you're right
making a philosophical critique of it.
Right. The only view that really makes exegetical sense is the functional view, because the image talk is linked to a mandate.
And so functional view is the idea that God gave them a special calling.
Right. The image of God is not a thing that a quality God gives us. The image of God is a status conferred upon us.
So the way how Bill Craig would argue against it, and this is where I think he goes I guess he's not the only one to argue this way, and I don't want to pick on him. The way how the structuralist would really argue against it and say that the vocation comes with particular attributes and abilities. And I think we can all both agree that you need to have particular attributes to have a calling. But you can have attributes without the calling, right?
Right. That's not an argument against my view. It actually is an argument for my view, because I'm not interested in denying that when God gives us this status, he shares his attributes with us. Okay. But what I'm against is conflating the image itself with those attributes. So I completely agree that, you know, we have these qualities to fulfill the mandate, to fulfill the image. But if you conflate those two things, the qualities with the image, well, like I said, then you're at Peter Singer territory. I mean, that's honestly, that's where you're at.
So back up. So what you're saying is that you like the idea of thinking about Neanderthals as humans too, but they're not humans in the image of God. But that's not really a concern for you, because you're not saying. Correct. I mean, whatever the science shows, maybe they're equally human-like as us. That's not really what the image of God is getting at. There's like a special role, and in fact, you know, if Adam and Eve were really recent, there was even Homo Sapiens that weren't in the image of God.